Hi, everybody. Hassan Shariq from the city of Toronto and Adnan Khalid from the city of Calgary welcome you in the 15th episode of our weekly live session, Immigration Buzz by Adnan and Shariq. I hope all of you are doing really well wherever in the world you are and enjoying your time with your family. I'm glad that the whole pandemic thing is now it seems that it is coming towards its end, although it's far from over. So our prayer and wishes that you yourself stay safe and your family stay safe as well. As the regular trend or pattern of our show, first of all, we will talk about an important aspect with regard to Canadian immigration, more specifically related to the express entry processing, the police certificate requirement. And this is where a lot of people have a lot of confusion. And let me also share that this is one of the biggest reason for rejection of immigration applications, more specifically the express entry applications. So a very important topic. We will quickly have a look at the requirements for police certificates, generally for Canadian immigration and specifically for express entry, and a 10-12 minute discussion. And at the end, as we do usually, if there are any questions or comments, we will take those. So with that, I'll hand it over to Adnan, who will share some details, and we'll do it an interactive discussion. Adnan, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Hassan. I'm doing fine and welcome everyone. So, yes, as Hassan said, today is a very general topic of police clearance certificate, but the idea behind it, we want to give the all the listeners and viewers or anybody who's interested in uh, Canadian permanent residency or any other application they are looking for, they should have hand-on experience or hand-on idea of what this is going to be. So let me share my screen. Today, we have not prepared a slideshow properly because the information is so vast. So we want to cover a brief about it. What is it? And then we'll open for question answers if someone have it on that. All right. So I hope you can see my screen. So what is basically the police clearance certificate is it is for the reason of checking in admissibility to Canada. So that is why the Canadian official they request for police clearance certificate. They want to be sure you do not have any criminal record in your previous history, and that is the reason they request for that. And the second thing is who needs a police clearance certificate. So anybody who is above 18 years of age and older, and they have spent 6 months in any country for period of 6 months, so they need a police clearance certificate. Uh, but it also varies from country to country as well. It's not like we'll get in detail. There are few countries where the Canadian government also understand you cannot get the police clearance certificates, especially if you left the country. So they understand that, and there is ways how you can pass this information to visa officers so that they can consider. All right. So the next question comes at when should I submit one police clearance certificate? So here the two things is people they have a confusion that when they're putting their express entry profile, they think that they need to submit police clearance certificate also, but you do not need to have a police clearance certificate when you are submitting your application. You are going for an express entry. You do not need at that time. Police clearance certificate is only requested when you receive an invitation to apply. Okay, and you have 90 days to provide the police clearance certificate. But while submitting or while creating your profile in Express Entry, you do not need an police clearance certificate. Okay, so this is very clear we want to make here. Of course, there are other requirements for International Experience Canada class. Every like program have their own requirement, but in general, because the starting point for the permanent residency applicants are the express entry profile. So just to let you know, we do not need a that one. The next question is how do I get one? Now, the thing is, every country they have a different processing. Okay, and there are some countries if you have lived there and you left that country there are two ways for you to get it. One is like it's online everything right now available, especially few of the countries that started giving a police clearance certificate very quickly. but there are few countries where you cannot get the police clearance certificate once you left that country. The one example I can give is Saudi Arabia. So if you have lived in that country but you left it, and then you are applying for a permanent residency, of course you cannot get the Saudi Arabian police clearance certificate easily. So the government of Canada, they have already put on their website that what is the reason you could enter on your application, and the visa officer will consider that, because they understand it's not easy to get what we are looking for. And also, there are some countries which do not provide police clearance certificate until and unless IRCC gives you a letter and you take it to the police station, and then of course you get your process done. So there are also ways of doing it. There is ton of information which is available on the IRCC website. Just to give you an example, like how it happened, like this is again a Canadian government website. So if you are interested in any country, for wherever country you have spent more than 6 months and you want to take the police clearance certificate, just select that country from here, and there is a complete process. You can find it there. So I'm just giving an example of because I was talking about Saudi Arabia. So you will see that how to apply here. See, there is a process if you are inside Canada, like what you can do. So there is a lot of like similarly the message what I'm trying to give you. Everything is on this website, which varies from country to country. So there is no problem like seeking information on that particular subject. So it's very easy. Just enter your country and they will give you information, right? So this is the starting point for you guys. Like coming back to my slide here, there is also like some other information like which somebody can ask how long is my police clearance certificate is good for. Usually it is for 6 months. Okay? Up to six, if it is more than 6 months, then you need to reissue that particular police clearance certificate. Hassan, you want to add something here?
Yeah, a few things. So, as Adnan mentioned in the beginning about the need for police certificates. Now, keep in mind that whenever you're applying for entry into Canada, more specifically for skilled migration, or if it is for a longer period of stay, um, uh, officers have to look at an important aspect which is admissibility or vice versa, inadmissibility. So, being eligible for an immigration program based on the points, based on your experience, your education is one thing, but you might fulfill all those requirements, but that you might be inadmissible because of a police record or a criminal record, and that is where the need is. Important thing to keep in mind is that usually the requirement is that if you have spent 6 months consecutive in a country since the time that you were 18 or for or within the last 10 years, whichever is the more latest one, then you're required to provide police certificate for that particular country, even if you don't reside over there. Now, a lot of time there are people in situations where they sometimes travel to few countries just for a short trip, but they've had multiple travels. Now, if you've had multiple travels, you don't require police certificate for that as long as you did not spend 6 months in a row in one specific country. Previously, there used to be a bit of confusion that if the accumulated time is 6 months, you still require that. But if you have spent those 6 months, even if it was, say, maybe 5 years ago, you are required to provide the police certificate. Rightly pointed out by Adnan that uh, the police certificate requirement is there, but it depends on each country. Each country has its own way of providing police certificates. The example of Saudi Arabia was given. A lot of Middle Eastern countries, I think with the exception of UAE, it's not so easy to get a police certificate if you're not based in the country. And in many cases, what IRCC says is that, and if you look at the drop down menu that Adnan shared with you, where all the different countries are listed, some of these countries, I'll give the example like Kuwait. If you are not based in Kuwait, it's very difficult to get a police certificate. So what IRCC requires is that Once you submit your application, you provide an explanation letter, and they will send you a letter specifically for the request of Kuwaiti police certificate. So just follow these instructions. It is very important that you source the right kind of police certificate, because sometimes countries have different kinds of police certificates. And what IRCC is looking is for one specific kind out of those three or four different kinds. If you provide a police certificate which is valid but is not what is listed on their website for that country, you will again end up having a rejection on that. Mm,
And
yeah,
also,
Adnan?
Hassan, for Saudi Arabia, because we are discussing about that, the reason is a lot of people, when they are leaving that country, so they ask like this question to me, and I'm answering this question on a number of occasions, that they said that in future we might apply for Canadian permanent residency. Should we get a policeman certificate now? And I always tell them, no, it's not required even once you left the country. The exact code, what is written in Canadian IRCC manual is like in inverted commas. They said, just mention this: I cannot obtain a Saudi policeman certificate because I'm not a permanent resident of that country at this moment. So this is the wording which you need to enter into your application to get away with this requirement. One important thing here is the timeline. 90 days of timeline is very crucial, and sometimes the police clearance certificate takes time. So it needs to be planned very well. Even if you
Yeah.
cannot, you know that you are not going to get the police clearance certificate within 90 days. IRCC recommends that you just withdraw the ITA invite, just let it go, and then go back to the pool. Or the other option is you can ask the visa officer, show some proof that your placement certificate is already in process by giving the receipt or something or some correspondence. Which now this is again at the discretion of visa officer. Is he going to buy your email into like your consideration or not? If he buy your idea or buy your write up, it's okay. He will accept, but he can reject also. So that is a little bit of the thing which you do not want to touch. Also, just remember that most of the war hit countries or the way the situation is not great. For example, Syria, Afghanistan, and there is one more
Yemen.
country, Yemen, exactly. So IRCC do understand, like they are considerate to that you cannot get the police clearance certificate from there. So they do not actually ask for it, but there is a way they have proposed already in their manual what need to be done. This is if some situation like this arise, of course, get in touch with any professional and they can definitely help you, assist how you can get away if you have a problem getting the policeman certificate. They can give you the exact coding or words, or you can go into IRCC manuals, read it down, and you will find out the reasons what you need to put into if you are concerned with any of the countries which we mentioned just briefly.
Yeah, and if there is a valid reasoning, one thing I'll just update that even on the IRCC website, it still says 90 days, whereas now for Express Entry they've started again they've gone back to 60 days. So do keep in mind that it is 60 days now. And if it is a legit, genuine reasoning, because that can sometimes happen, um, 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 the visa officer has the discretion to accept it, but you should have started the process of obtaining the PCC right away when you got the ITA. I'll share an example. I had a client who had been based in UK, and the process of obtaining a police clearance certificate from UK is pretty simple. They have the online process, but this is when it was last year's Christmas time and the COVID situation, and because that police certificate is sent through the Royal UK Mail, it got lost 3 times. And we reached the deadline date for submission, and we did not have the police certificate by that date. And then an explanation was provided with the evidence that we had applied. So the visa officer was fine with that. But then again, had we waited till the end, it could have been very different. As Adnan mentioned, then it could have been the visa officer's discretion if to accept that or not.
Exactly,
Um,
that's correct. Like before, we have an ample amount of time, like 90 days, but it's been squeezed a lot. So it's becoming more challenging now. But again, if you are, also the problem is you cannot get the police clearance certificate in advance because of the 6 months of timeline window, which I said. So of course, once you have an idea, the very first thing you need to start is the police clearance certificate. That is the one thing we can advise here to save time.
Yeah. And if you're based in Canada, like you've spent time somewhere else as well, and you're based in Canada, you're not required to provide the police certificates for Canada. Usually, they send a request later on. For those who've been in Canada, say for studies or something like that, and then have now moved out, there is a process. It's a tedious process where you have to submit your fingerprints. You have to get it done from the local police, or there are certain agencies which do that. You have to transmit that, and then you can get a police certificate from Canada. So that process is there as well. If you're based in Canada, you're not required to provide that. Um, Also keep in mind that if you are applying for like express entry or such a skilled migration application, and you have dependents with you who are 18 years or above, you're also required to provide police certificates for them as well. You might be the main applicant, but the whole concept that we mentioned about admissibility or inadmissibility in the beginning, you could be inadmissible because of an inadmissible dependent. Who So that's very important, and I've seen instances where people get confused that sometimes they have a non-accompanying spouse, a non-accompanying dependent who's 18 years or above, and they think that because that person is non-accompanying, they might not be required a police certificate, or that will not impact. But that's not the case. If it is your eligible dependent, maybe spouse or a child who's 18 years or above, and you're submitting an immigration application for Canada, PCC is for all of you.
And Hassan, a very important point here regarding inadmissibility. So, inadmissibility could be due to the criminal record, even if the non-accompanying member, the accompanying member, not the main applicant, has this record of criminal or something. That also will make you ineligible as a main applicant, like the whole family.
Yeah.
The also inadmissibility could be due to the medical grounds as well, the medical reasons. And I
Yeah.
think Hassan, that's an important point. Just to highlight that Canadian government, they have put a threshold value. If you or your accompanying member or dependent has a medical inadmissibility, but it's within the threshold dollar value which Canadian government has put on medical reasons, then it's fine. But if it is above that dollar number, which is around, if I'm not mistaken, 22,000 Canadian dollar,
Yeah.
then they can refuse your application, whole application, not only that dependent, like the complete family application. Usually, what we have seen from our experience is when you submit your profile, and there is a, that there is a medical inadmissibility is going to kick in, they do not reject like plainly right away. They send you a PFL letter, we call it
Yeah.
procedural fairness letter,
Yes, sir.
and they give you an opportunity to defend it, like to say something on support of this particular case, like why you think it shouldn't be an issue on medical inadmissibility grounds. So of course there are ways, but that is a little bit more complex and challenging case if it moves to that particular direction. But yes, as Hassan said, inadmissibility due to any of the dependent or non-accompanying member can make all the family inadmissible, not one. That is important. And secondly, inadmissibility could be due to police clearance certificate, the criminal record, or the medical reasons, medical grounds. Okay. Yes, Hassan. I think we
Yeah.
covered a lot on that. Do you have anything to add more on it?
I'll just quickly to wind it up. I'll just quickly add one more thing, which is again, which is a whole different topic of discussion, which we might do sometime later. But do keep in mind that if there is a criminal record, it does not mean that um, and this is not just for express entry, but I'm talking in general about Canadian immigration. There are people who are applying on family class. There are people who are applying on other streams. If there is a criminal record, that impacts, but that does not mean that you can then never apply for Canada. There's a whole process of rehabilitation. So there are policies around it that first you have to see what kind of criminal activity or what kind of charge is against you, how it compares with the Canadian law, if it is a minor crime or if it is a major crime, and how long has it been that it was that charge was put up. Some criminal activity or some such charges um, are taken off your record, or they're not maybe as consequential if a certain amount of time has passed. And for certain crimes or charges, you actually have to apply for that to be taken off. So that's a whole discussion. And
Hassan, I think that's very interesting because it gives us another topic to talk about it in detail separately, which is inadmissibility.
yeah,
And what are the grounds of inadmissibility when one can consider they are deemed rectified of that particular charge. I think we can do one complete, like 15-20 minutes talk on
yeah.
inadmissibility only.
Yeah, yeah. So I think with that, we pretty much covered the basics of police certificate requirement for Canadian immigration in general and express entry in specific. So let's move on to the comment. Excuse me, comments and question, Adnan.
Mhm.
First up, we have Malik, who is saying, "Sir, I'm applying for study visa, but every uni charges $100 to $200, but Indian students get free waiver because of consultant. Any solution for Pakistanis?"
Hassan, I think this is your favorite topic to answer.
Malik, as being somebody who's from the education sector myself, Um, first of all, I would disagree with your blanket statement that all Indian students get a waiver on all institutions just because of a consultant. The policies varies between institution to institution. So if you know the institution which is providing an application fee waiver to a consultant in India, you can look for their consultant in Pakistan as well. They'll have consultant all over. So if you just want to save money on that. But let me clarify to you that all well-reputed educational institutions in Canada do charge an application fee. And this is something important because uh, if you're applying, what you need to do is that you need to do your research and shortlist maybe two, at max three institutions where you are close to their admission requirements. And then this is again where a professional can help you as to what grades you have. So you should not be submitting like applications into 12 different institutions. You shortlist those institutions based on your credentials, based on other preferences, and then you might have to incur a limited amount of funds in terms of your application fee. So that's what I can suggest. Or otherwise, as I mentioned, if an institution is providing a waiver for Indian students, it will be providing a waiver for students from around the world. So look for those institutions and their consultants. Next up, we don't have too many questions. Probably it's because now we changed our schedule a little. So the next question is from Ghulam Jilani, which is, "Sir, can you please give some information about I think it's NOC 411, the home child care providers?"
So the basic NOC 4411, I think if you just want to know what is it, like I think it's easy to just look on the Canada.ca website, the list by list description or job responsibilities, employer requirements. It's stated there. What I can do, I can bring it front if that helps someone. Um,
Yeah, Adnan, in the meantime that you open the knockout, I think what I feel is that because this is related to a few of the programs which became very popular, just like the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program.
oh, I see. If that is
And
related with the program, then it's a different
yeah,
answer we have to give.
yeah, you can bring out the knock code. We can quickly have a look at that. But what my feeling is that, and this is because there was a lot of buzz created about the home caregiver program, where the work permit leading to a PR. Now, if that is the case, what happens is that you are required to have a job offer from an eligible Canadian employer. There is a whole process to it. And it's not just that anybody can apply, and then you are required to fulfill certain requirements against that. If you fulfill those requirements, your employer fulfills those requirements, then yes, you can be offered a work permit for this particular knock. You can move to Canada. Then you have to work for a certain time period. And the employer has to provide you salary through banking channels, tax reduction that is done as well, and then you might apply for PR. So I think this question was more related to that. But Adnan, if you could quickly run through the requirements for this knock.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty straightforward. We know there is a certain duties which you need to show, like which you are skill of doing it, and then this is very important. Like the employment requirements, this is what they look into. Like even if you put your profile into, in which you have to have a secondary school certificate, and you also have a CPR or certification, and you have an experience. Like these are important things, which is for this particular case. But when it comes to a complete program, that's a different debate we can go into later.
Even for that program, the knock requirements are there, because when you apply for the work permit, or if there is an LMI requirement, important thing is that you must prove, first you must have at least equivalent to a high school qualification. So you need to provide proof for that. Most likely you will be required to provide an ECA for that. You're also required to show proof, documented, verifiable proof of having either qualification and in most cases prior experience. Now, where the challenge comes is that a lot of applicants, especially from South Asia, um, they do not have that documented experience. Like if you're working in maybe a childcare center in some country, or even if you're working for a school, or for such an institution similar to that, like a Montessori or something, then you might be able to prove your prior experience. If you're not able to prove your prior work experience related to this through documented evidence, then you don't become eligible, and most likely your work permit application might be refused as well. So that's what I can add. We do not have any other questions or comments. So I think that with that,
Hassan, what is happening? I'm receiving so many private messages like for question something, and I'm always telling them this is the opportunity you guys have. Come and ask question. We are two licensed consultants here. We are here to help the community at large. So post your questions here. We will definitely address them. We are open. We are here for you guys. Like this is your time is so. Even if you know someone who has questions and they're posting in different multiple forums, and they know somebody who is not experienced, not licensed, not having an experience in this, answering that question, it's better you ask us here right away live. And the other opportunity you have is you can also post another follow-up question once you listen to it. It's a very good opportunity to get your piece of satisfaction for your the question you are asking for right away. So if you
yeah.
know someone, please let them know that we are here to help, and we are here every week, and we are spending like 15 to 20, 30 minutes on question answers.
Yeah.
So please utilize this time. I hope it will help everyone.
Yeah, and something that previously I've observed as well, Adnan, where people, a lot of them send direct messages, and in all honesty, that becomes a bit of a challenge. I've Sometimes people have even complained that we've sent you Facebook messages, like direct messages, and you're not replying. Uh,
We
you
cannot
don't have
handle
time.
that. We
We
cannot
cannot
handle that
handle that.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of applications, client files that we have to manage as well. That takes a lot of time. So this is an opportunity that we take out. So feel free to come here, ask questions. This is where we want to provide as much information. And if you are really interested in discussing something very specific, where you have that need, then definitely you have to use our paid services, because we have to focus on our time servicing the clients. So you could do that. And as Adnan mentioned, that if there is a follow-up question, feel free to just post that in the comment section on that particular video, and we'll be more than happy to get back. So with that, I think it's time to take leave. Hopefully, we've been able to add some value to all of you who attended the live session or who might watch this video later on. Your feedback, your comments, your questions are greatly appreciated and welcome. We'll be back with another video in a week's time on another topic. And if you have suggestions and questions, like even if it's for specific programs, do provide that feedback as well, and that helps us in deciding as to what topics to talk about. So with that, I'll ask for a leave, and we'll leave you with a short video on a Canadian landscape for you to enjoy. So take care till the next time that we meet. Bye-bye.